In this app, I hope to build something fun and useful for you. As you can see on the screen, it's kind of a reference for Apple frameworks. You tap on a framework, Modal, or they're called Sheets in SwiftUI, pops up with more information, and you can tap Learn More to pull up a Safari View Controller to really do a deep dive on all these different Apple frameworks. And as we build out this project, we're going to slowly start to expand on our SwiftUI skills. As you can see from the design here, obviously there's a grid. We're going to learn about that. We're going to put that grid in a scroll view, so we're going to get some exposure to that. There's a navigation view. We're going to pass data to a whole new view, the modal slide up. In SwiftUI, they're actually called sheets, but modal, sheet, kind of the same thing. Of course, we're going to refactor. We're going to dip our toes into MVVM a little bit, model view, view model, super basic on that, just to introduce you to the concept. And in the last video is kind of a little bonus. I'm going to show you how you can quickly convert this grid and modal slide up into a typical list and detail view with like a navigation controller. Well, they're called navigation views, but trying to relate this to UIKit terms, right? Like a navigation controller with a detail view, we can slide back. We're going to convert it to that pretty quickly to kind of show you the power of SwiftUI. So let's get into it. We're going to create a new Xcode project. Hopefully this isn't anything new to you by now. Let's go ahead and make this full screen here. Cool, and then we're gonna do iOS app, nice. And call this whatever you like. I'm gonna call this Apple Frameworks. Interface SwiftUI, Lifecycle SwiftUI app, language, Objective-C, right? Swift, next. And then save it, I'm gonna save mine on my desktop, save it wherever you like. Cool, here we are, brand new SwiftUI project. I'm gonna minimize my right pane here, hit resume. This is kind of my typical starting thing. Get my canvas to not look ridiculous. Get it off the iPod 7. We're gonna go to the iPhone 12 Pro. And let's make it not ridiculously huge. There we go. Okay, great. So the first thing we're going to do is start a little bit of our data model, right? This is all about Apple frameworks. So we wanna have a framework object, right? That has the icon, the name, the description, the URL to go to with Safari, all that stuff. So click on your Apple Frameworks folder here, do Command N for a new folder or a new file. We'll just do a Swift file because this is just part of our model. Hit next. I'm just going to call this framework. That's our object name. Create. Cool. And then we're going to, it's a struct called framework. And pretty simple for right now. Let name, it's going to be a string, and these are going to be constants because they're not changing. We don't want these to be dynamic or anything like that. So let image name, right? This is how we know what icon to show. That's also a string. URL string, that is also going to be a string. And then let description also a string, right? So those are the four properties we need right now to populate our app. Now I'm going to save you some time so you don't have to type out all this mock data. On this video, you'll see a file attached in the Teachable platform. It's going to be called mockdata.swift. Go ahead and download that file, open it up, and don't like drag the file into the project. Just open it up separately and copy and paste it into this file like I'm going to do here. So I went and copied that from that file. I'm going to do a Command V here, and there you see mock data. And what we have here on this mock data is just an array of frameworks. And you can see I've created all these frameworks, right? I gave it the name of app clips, the image name. We'll import those images here in a second, and URL string for how we open up our Safari View Controller, and then the paragraph, description for each one. Now that we have like our data set up, let's bring in these images, right? You see image name app clip. Well, again, attached to the video as a file in Teachable, you'll see a folder called framework icons or something similar to that. You'll be able to figure it out. But download that folder and then drag your images in like this. So if I go to my Finder, open up the folder, you'll see all these. So actually back in Xcode, we need to do our assets folder. Let's go back to Finder. And I'm going to hold Shift, drag all of these in here to my assets folder. There you go. You should see our framework icons. And then the names again match up with what we have in our model. So now that we have our images in here, let's go to our content view. Well, actually, I'm just now seeing this. When we built our framework, it put it down here. I hate when they're always down there. I like to move them up there. And then eventually, put them in their own folders for like views, model, all that stuff. We'll get to that later. So anyway, we have our framework. The data is ready to go. We have our images. The last thing I want to do for this setup is this content view. Now, I do this a lot in my tutorials and previous courses. Everybody always tells me there's an easier way. Cool. I'm going to do it my way still. Here's what I always do, right? Because I don't want this to be called content view. I want this to be called framework grid view, right? For a proper name. So I know you can, rename it, but I've just had a lot of issues in the past trying to just rename a file. And then like my file paths get messed up because the name is wrong. And like I spent hours like trying to mess with those bugs. So I know you can do proper renaming, but I do it this way just for peace of mind and like start a stopwatch. Watch how long this takes, right? Here's what I do. I delete the content view. Move to trash, cool. Apple Frameworks, Command N, new file, Swift UI view, next. And then I do framework, grid view, create. And then again, it puts it at the bottom, so I drag it up. Cool, done. Now that took 10 seconds, and I have the peace of mind that like all that pathing issue is not gonna be an issue. It's a fresh, clean slate. So again, if you choose to, and of course, I forgot something. So maybe not 10 seconds, maybe 12 seconds, because you have to go to your app file here, and instead of content view, now it's got to be framework grid view, like I said, right? Because content view doesn't exist anymore. So do Command B. Okay, so 12 seconds instead of 10 seconds, whatever. But the point is, now I have peace of mind that I am working on a fresh slate. I'm not going to deal with any of those like pathing issues. So anyway, that's just I'm scarred, I guess, from that. So if you choose to do the renaming, cool, fine, I do it that way. So that's our initial project setup, but I want to leave you with another challenge. And I'll admit, it's a little bit repetitive, but that's kind of the point. So as you can see in the design, right, look what our grid is made up of, right? The icon and the name. What kind of stack do you think that is, right? It's a V stack, right? You got the image at the top, name at the bottom. So in this quick challenge, before we move on to the next video, try to create that V stack real quick, right? That has the image of the icon and the name. Now, remember, we're gonna be in a small grid and some of the framework names are long. So when you format the text of the V stack, think about that, right? Maybe our font needs to be dynamic. It needs to adjust to our grid view so it doesn't get truncated or go down to 2 lines. So how do you format that text view so that it shrinks if needed? So that's something to keep in mind. And that's the first building block of our grid, which we're gonna build together in the next video. So if you wanna take a stab at that, now's your time. We're gonna jump right into it in the next one.